Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar, You've Got Mail, Timely Email Insights and Trends. I'm Jen Lennon, Marketing Coordinator for the Stelter Company. As an industry leader in planned giving marketing, Stelter is committed to providing innovative solutions and education for our industry. We're very happy to host this complimentary webinar today. So let's meet our presenters. First up, we have Colleen Webster. Colleen is Stelter's Digital Solutions Director. She oversees Stelter's digital teams who partner with over 1,500 nonprofits to deliver their gift planning web pages and their email marketing programs. Colleen has over 17 years of experience in information technology and user experience. Next up is Katie Parker, Stelter's Editorial Director. Katie manages Stelter's editorial staff who write our print and digital content for our nonprofit partners nationwide. Katie came to Stelter after working for over 12 years at Meredith Corporation, where she was most recently editorial manager for Better Homes and Gardens, BHG.com. And finally, to round things out, we have Zach Christensen. Zach is Stelter's creative director with almost 20 years of experience providing design and creative direction for Stelter's nonprofit partners. Zach ensures that the creative we provide to our nonprofit partners captures the look and feel of each organization's brand and mission. Zach also heads up our marketing department, overseeing all of our corporate marketing. He's responsible for the overall positioning of the Stelter brand. And yes, Zach is my boss. And a side note, he's not feeling great today. So let's just be kind to him. He's sticking it out. He's here with us today. So welcome, Zach.
Thanks, Jen, and I apologize for my nasally voice today, but we'll try to get through things. Again, thank you all for joining and logging on today's presentation. We're going to be covering some very cool, interesting, and important facts around your email marketing list, offer, and creative. We'll kick things off by discussing who we're sending emails to, the importance of list selection, and actually getting into our donors' inbox. Then we'll jump into content and design best practices before transitioning into some interesting stats around e-marketing. And finally, we'll wrap things up today by showing you how we use all of today's information to get you here at our webinar. We tricked you. Like Jen mentioned, we may not have time for Q&A, but we put up our emails at the end, and don't hesitate reaching out afterwards. We'd love to have a conversation with you. So before we get too deep into things today, I often get the question as to what the expectation of an email or an email marketing campaign should be. I feel it's necessary to start by saying email is a marketing driver. We talk a lot at Stelter about marketing drivers versus destinations, meaning we have a driver like an email or maybe a social post that will take donors to a destination like a landing page or a website to take action. Now, these actions might be downloading a brochure, reading more about a gift type, or the one thing that we want them to do most often is have a conversation with you. So what does this all mean? Well, most of us should not expect an email to deliver us an actual planned gift. Awesome if it could, but don't have that expectation. But rather open up the door for a conversation or an interaction with the donor. And that's it, plain and simple. Now, this is something that we all need to embrace prior to setting our annual goals and developing a well-balanced education-based and conversion-based marketing program. Now, before I bring Colleen into this conversation to discuss the importance of a mail list, I have got a quick pop quiz for you. We're going to do a few of these today. Jen, would you please pull up and launch our first question or poll of the day? So as we get into this whole conversation around email marketing, I think it's really important for us to understand how many emails people actually get in a day. So looking at the question up on the screen, how many emails do you think the average person receives a day?
Katie here, just providing some color commentary. As we created this question, I was actually surprised by how low these numbers were. And maybe it's my own mind, but 121, 225, 154, those don't seem big enough. Frankly, 87 is a joke.
Yeah, I feel like there's times of my day where I group emails and delete them in chunks of 20. So it's kind of crazy.
Okay,
So,
guys, looks like we have about 70% of you have answered. Don't be shy. Go ahead and put your answer in. We don't know who you are, so you will not be embarrassed by the wrong answer. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close the poll now, and we will share the results with you.
Looking like a large majority of you have chosen 154. Very, very close. The actual answer is 121. I know this might vary here and there, but again, we are thinking about a ton of emails in people's inbox. So what we're going to be talking about today really drives home the importance of delivering the right message to the right person at the right time.
So Zach, if you're receiving 121 emails a day, how do you decide which emails to respond to?
I have no clue. We were talking about this earlier, and like I said, there's a handful that I don't, and there's a handful I do. So teach me, Colleen.
Oh, I feel that, Zach. So hey, everyone, this is Colleen. I know for me, the emails in the inbox that catch my eye are the ones that are from my kids' teachers, their coaches, maybe bill payment reminders. You know, those are the ones that jump out at me. And when I get a few minutes to actually catch up on my email inbox, I'll look at the newsletters that I've subscribed to and read a few before I'm off running again. So the average person spends about 11 seconds reading an email, and I can certainly relate. I am reading on the run. So given the sheer amount of emails sent a day and the speed in which we consume them, it's critically important to cultivate good lists. And I'd like to share with you some tips on building great lists. The best way to cultivate and grow a list is by facilitating an opt-in. When a donor joins your list willingly, they are giving you permission and direct access to a channel they access every day. Conversely, if you have people on your list who don't opt in, unfortunately, your email is considered spam. Too many spam complaints can send your emails directly into spam, missing the inbox completely and missing the donors who actually subscribe to hear from you. Additionally, governments from around the world have enacted anti-spam laws that set rules around how companies can interact with donors or even potential donors. These laws can cover everything from how organizations receive consent, from sending messages, what the message contains, what they cannot contain, even more. This is why there are many benefits for a proper list opt-in mechanism. So Zach, can you share with us a few simple ways to opt in?
Sure thing, Colleen. I want to quickly run through a couple of examples so we're all on the page with this idea of an opt-in. The first email on the left is an example that I found from Dollar Shave Club. A very simple email that provides users a quick understanding of what they'll be getting, along with a great image showing what to expect when your shipment actually arrives in your home. I think this is a great use of an image in this one. I really like how simple and straightforward the content is. The button, Try the Club, is their way of opting you into future communications. Really nice job on that one. Next, on the right, we have an opt-in email from Social Prints. They're a company that will print your Instagram photos directly to your phone or directly from your phone. My wife and I actually use this quite a bit. It's kind of a cool app. Check it out if you want to. Again, we have a very simple email expressing thanks for joining, a fun image at the bottom, and a sample of what an actual photo might look like right above their heads there. Also, I really like this simple button to verify account setup, or in other words, opting you into future emails. Now, as we move down on this email, we see even more clarity around what to expect once you opt in. Again, I think both of these are really nice examples of opt-in emails. Now, on the flip side of things, I want to show you what a preference setting email might look like. Again, we want to be very simple and straightforward with our messaging and give our users a simple way of opting out, but before that, giving some options for keeping on pace with their emails. This is an example from Bonobos. It's really nice. It actually gives the user 4 options to choose from. How about once a week? Let's take it slow. I really love how simple and fun this language is. Second, a month. Once a month, I like you, but I don't know how much I like you. It's not you, it's me. I need a little break. And I really like the smart language that they've used here. It gives me a time expectation of when to expect their next communication in the inbox. And then finally, that unsubscribe. And again, fun little language, sniff, sniff, we're going to miss you, but it's over, Bonobos. Stop emailing me. Again, simple messaging, letting the readers know what their options are and giving you a better understanding of the relationship that your end user wants to have.
Great example, Zach. Thanks. Growing your list organically is your best bet for creating a list of subscribers who are actually interested in the content you have to offer. Not only does this bode well for your opens and click-through rates, but it also has huge ramifications on your email marketing ROI. A short list on other online methods to aid you in growing your list. One, encourage people to share and or forward your emails. Another option is creating an offer that people can take advantage of in return for joining your email list. No matter what method you use to develop your own offer, a compelling offer will always beat no offer at all. And finally, use your social channels. Reach out in different ways. I'd like to invite Katie to jump in here, and she's going to provide us with some ways to grow lists offline.
Well, everything Colleen said is that digital way to grow your list, and that's going to be your biggest ROI, digital to digital. But think about all the other touch points you have with your donors throughout the year that aren't in a digital space. Do you have organizational events like an end-of-year gala that's timely right now? Do you sponsor runs or races? Or anytime you can just put some marketing in front of them that lets them opt in to hearing from you in a future email. In your direct mail campaigns, you have the opportunity in a reply card, for instance, to have them opt in by submitting their email address. Again, they're already talking to you. They like your brand. Give them more options to have a more frequent conversation. If you do inbound customer service calls, another great time to ask a donor how they'd like to receive communications. In-person visits, obviously they're big on your brand. Keep the conversation going. And print ads in magazines. If you've got a glossy that's, again, talking to somebody who loves your brand, give them an opportunity to opt into your email going forward. Colleen, then I wonder, when we go from that experience, what do you feel like the sign-in example should actually feel like and look like?
Yeah, here we have a quick example of how you might position your newsletter on your website. Make it easy for your donor to sign up. This is a simple form, just asking for an email address. Later, you can grow their profile, asking for more information as you build trust. In addition to a simple form, make it easy to find the form. Visitors to your website and social media pages should not have to search very long to find a link or the form where they can sign up. For example, inserting a sign-up link at the end of every blog is a simple way to reach your visitors. If someone has spent time to read an entire blog or article on your site, there's a good opportunity to convert them into an email subscriber. Make the conversion while you have their attention rather than hoping they'll find your link somewhere else. Okay, now we're going to talk about lists and not buying them. The next rule of thumb, you cannot buy lists. As I stated a few minutes ago, opt-ins are critically important for inbox deliverability and also for regulation compliance. People on bot lists did not opt into your email, and the likelihood of them complaining and marking your emails as spam is high. This is a surefire way to end up on a blacklist. Also, there is no way to verify the quality of the contacts within that email list you've purchased. Do they fit your target demographic? Are they located in the region where you want to do business? Are the email addresses even still in use? The better use of your dollars and effort is to find sources where you can learn more about the donors who are already on your list. And Zach, you have a great example and a story I'd love for you to share about how we helped a client append data to their list.
Yeah, Colleen, one of the things that everybody on the phone is probably familiar with right now, real estate giving is a hot topic. Obviously, real estate prices are very high, so real estate giving and charitable giving is actually something that people are developing campaigns on. One of the things that I've helped a few of our clients with is looking at the real estate gifts around their schools. I know there was one in California that just recently engaged us, and they wanted to ask the people around their community about donating real estate gifts to their school. What we help them do is look at people within that community of home values above a certain value, so we appended that information to their list. We also looked at donors that had multiple home properties, so 1, 2, maybe 3 properties within the area, because those folks might be more willing to donate that property to a charitable organization to get that benefit. Again, we can also look at geolocating areas, so let's say that you're in the state of Colorado and you want to just look at people within the state of Colorado, we can append that information to the list as well.
Great, Zach. So we've talked about opting in, not buying lists, but rather appending information. And now we're going to talk quickly about keeping your list clean. A healthy list cleaning regimen is key in keeping your list performing at its best. A few complaints can derail your email marketing for a long time, so it's critical to ensure the subscriber lists are permission-based and that your permissions don't go stale. Consider leveraging a list cleaning service to remove bad email addresses from your list. Email addresses also go stale, so it's good to clean them at least once a year. Removing the unused or typoed email addresses will aid your deliverability and help you reach the inbox. You can also take a look at the list and identify engagement levels. This will help you see who's the most engaged with your content versus the unengaged, and you can speak to these groups differently. Those who aren't as engaged may need some encouragement or prodding from you to re-engage, or conversely, you may find they unsubscribe, and that's okay. People who mark emails as spam are hurting your sender score. Unsubscribe is the ideal mechanism for someone to opt out of a mailing list. This will not damage your deliverability score and is another data point you can actually use to reconsider how to engage with that individual through different channels. It's important that all your email campaigns include an unsubscribe link that your subscribers can easily find. And I have a few examples that we use here at Stelter. Our best practice is to have an unsubscribe at the top of the email and then again at the bottom. It is important that you honor the unsubscribe. So when people opt out, you need to make sure you're removing them from your list within 10 days. CAN-SPAM and the Canadian anti-spam law sets rules for these commercial emails and requires us to, create the unsubscribe and to honor it. Okay, guys, it's time for another pop quiz. Jen, can you launch the quiz for us? Okay. You're in your inbox. You're looking at all 121 emails you have received. Which one of these would you trust the most to open? An email from Gail, from Steve, from the American Red Cross, or the Office of Planned Giving?
This is always a tricky one. I don't really open emails from people I don't know. I don't want to give the answer to the question away, but who is Steve? And why should I care about Steve?
Jen, how's the poll coming along?
We have about 60% of people. I think people are a little more hesitant on this one to give an answer. But again, we don't know who you are. Go ahead and answer. We'll see how you do. We'll keep it open for just a couple more seconds. And there's your results, Colleen.
Awesome. You guys, you got this. You're so smart. You're right. The American Red Cross is the correct answer. And let me just give a little context around this. So Gail, the first option, she's actually the CEO of the American Red Cross. So a few people may know who she is, but off the bat in my inbox, it's not clicking. Steve Campbell, he's the Senior Gift Planning Officer for the Iowa and Central Illinois. And so maybe myself, being from Iowa, would recognize Steve, or that would be the thought that I would recognize him, but I really probably won't. Office of Planned Giving, that's just really not enough information. So great job. Studies on email open rates have found that trusting the sender is the single most important factor in whether an email is opened or not. So this means it's critical to choose an effective and consistent from name and email address. The from name should clearly explain who the email is from. It should contain a company name. In most situations, it's much better to use a company or brand name over an individual person's name, unless the person is a brand like Madonna or Betty Crocker. If you have a good reason to use a person's name and it's not a brand, follow it with a comma and then the company or organization you're from. Now keep in mind, some web email clients cut off from names in the inbox view. For example, Gmail cuts off addresses at around 20 characters, and Yahoo can show as few as 14. So don't make the from name long and complicated. You'll want a subscriber to identify the name instantly and then move on to the next piece of information, the subject line. Okay, so the subject line, as you know, is that short line of text that subscribers see before opening your email. And 35% of subscribers open an email based on the subject line alone. That's why you should spend some time crafting a unique subject line. So a few key tips for subject lines. Keep it short. You have limited space of about 50 characters or between 6 to 10 words, so pick your words wisely. And describe the purpose of the email. Think of the subject line as a movie trailer that teases a big movie. You want to give subscribers a little taste of what's inside your email, just like the example. Be creative, but not deceptive. So Katie, can you share with us an example that we found in your own inbox intriguing?
I can. Here I am on a mobile device in Gmail, and I spotted this email from Chatbooks right off. And one of the things that really appealed to me is here in the subject line, the use of emojis. These little flowers do relate to the kind of paper that they use. And for some background, Chatbooks is a photo development site. Zach and I apparently both like photo development sites that creates books for you. So as you click into that, just to see a tighter view, you can really see that follow through of that icon into the design of the email. The other piece beyond the emoji that I really loved is the all capped new, again, really sticking out as we have quite a lot of clutter within an inbox. You can see again just a tighter view. Again, you could use emojis of smiley faces or hearts, lots of options out there to pick from.
Now, Colleen, looking at this from a plan giving officer standpoint and how Gmail, Apple Mail, and now even Outlook is listening to our inbox and making inbox recommendations for us, how does this impact communication with our donors?
Yeah, it's great. Great question, Zach. You know, email service providers are working really hard to provide their users with an optimal inbox experience. They're learning how to assist you in managing all those emails you receive in a day. New AI-powered features in Gmail, like nudging, smart reply, and high-priority notifications, are intended to help users spend more time on what matters. Again, most of us get more emails than we can deal with at one time, and sometimes things slip through the cracks. With nudging, as you can see here, Gmail will proactively remind you to follow up or respond to messages, making sure you don't drop the ball. High priority notifications is another setting that notifies you of important messages, keeping interruptions to a minimum. And finally there, you can see that Gmail will also recommend when to unsubscribe from mailing lists. Using intelligence, unsubscribe suggestions appear based on cues like how many emails you get from a sender and how many of them you actually read. On this next example, this is Outlook. Outlook is separating your inbox into two tabs, one focused and other. The most important emails are on the focus tab, while the rest remain easily accessible, but out of the way on the other tab. The system takes into account emails and contacts with whom you interact and filters out noisy sources like automatically generated or bulk email. Really, it's this next step right before the junk box. So why do we care about this awesome, really cool technology? Well, because it's paying attention to the emails your donor is reading and making decisions on their behalf. This is why it's critical to have a good list with engaged readers who want to hear from you. Ideally, we don't want our emails filtered to other, and we really don't want the email service provider prompting the donor to unsubscribe. So with that, Katie, can you share with us the best practices to keep our donors engaged in reading?
Here I hearken right back to that first poll of 121 emails in your inbox every day. So you're halfway through your day right now. Have you had to digest about 60 emails? That's just an average. And that's how your donors are going through their day as well. So really important to think about what their inbox looks like. And one way to do that is recognizing that email communication should be a meaningful conversation. It's one-on-one, it's you to them. It's not you on a megaphone telling the day's news to a large group. Make sure that you understand that not everyone needs everything. And here, the donor life cycle is a key element to make those distinctions. You have to be relevant to where the donor is along this journey. I have 4 examples of a life cycle journey here, beginning first with acquisition. And this is everything we've been talking about, including getting people on your list, helping them get through that process of becoming a part of your conversation. Second is the onboarding. And this is, you've got to welcome them before you do any kind of ask or even before you educate them. Make sure they know what to expect, make sure they understand what kinds of communications you're going to send and why they're important to them. Third is the meat of the donor life cycle, and the place that you really love to be is that relationship. The back and forth conversation, really growing the relationship between yourself and your donors. This is your chance to upsell, your chance to communicate and educate, and really your chance to learn a lot about them. And fourth is the retention step. In a plan giving environment, this might be that they've given you a plan gift and now you're stewarding them along. This is loyalty, and there should be reward as part of this part of the life cycle. So importantly, this isn't linear. You don't necessarily go smoothly from 1 to 4, and there's spots that you need to recheck for re-engagement. We have some examples of how you might do that.
Yeah, let's take a look at a couple of really nice re-engagement samples that I found out in the interwebs. The one on the left is an example from Grammarly. This is a great website that makes sure when I type anything, it's clear, effective, and mistake-free. When Katie actually lets me write something, I use this tool often so she doesn't get mad at me. This email is a creative way for them to say, hey there, we've noticed that you haven't engaged with us for a while. Hit the go button and get back into action. This is a super simple and straightforward email. Love the image that they've created to drive home the passage of time with the melting clock, and that headline copy really complements the image and again tells me it's been a long time since I've been on the site. So long, in fact, that I've unlocked the Wrinkle in Time badge. This is a huge image. They've really put a lot of emphasis and attention on it, mostly above the fold, and on mobile it fills almost the entire screen. This is a tactic to drive home the message and hopefully re-engage the reader. The thing I really like with this one is that button at the bottom. It's massive. It really makes it clear to me as to what they want me to do next. And with this one, they've added a little sub-button text to tell me where I'm going to go. In this case, continue onto the site. Only criticism that I have with this one was I wish the descriptive or the text below was a little bit more descriptive, but overall, I think it's a really good example. The other example here on the right is from Teespring. It's a unique online store where creatives of all kinds can go and design, print, and actually sell their own t-shirts. For starters, who can get past that cute little puppy? It's almost waving at you. I really love how they've incorporated personal message into this example. Hopefully this tactic reminds users of their past success on the site and gets them to go re-engage at the site. As you can see, they've actually added 3 variable fields into the body text, one around the amount of products that they've sold in the past, the amount of sales that they've had on the site in the past, and their overall success rate with the sale of their shirts. Only other variable that I might include here would be to add the user's name at the top. Lastly, and most importantly on this one, they've done a great job of making that button really stand out with some really nice descriptive text that tells me as a user where I'm going to go next.
So now you're in the right inboxes. We've been through the list part of our presentation. Here we are at the offer. It's really important to get your hand raisers. If you want leads, the offer is your lead magnet. And this is the place where you should spend a lot of your effort, hence the second part of our presentation today. So your offer, your lead magnet, is exactly as it sounds. It's something that inspires your donors to interact. And usually, Marketing 101, this is in the form of a free offer. That's a key word. An offer can take a number of formats, and I'll share some of those with you in just a second, but they should always be valuable to your donors. And let me say it again, free is a great way to get this done. There's just one problem with offers, and that's that people have become hyper protective of their personal information. Asking for an email address is a little bit invasive, so offers have to do a number of things. Here are some offer do's as you think about developing your offer stable. You need to deliver immediate value. Especially with email, I expect something immediately in return. Make the offer relevant and specific to your target audience. You'll know your list. You'll know what'll drive results. Use seasonally themed offers. This just lets the donor know that you're thinking about them at the time of year that they're thinking about you or thinking of making a gift. Make the offer super easy to redeem. Reduce any friction between them giving you something and getting something in return. And with an offer, you always have to deliver on the promise. Make sure what you told them they're going to get is exactly what ends up in their inbox. A few types of lead magnets, a few types of offers that you could create. Consider an ebook or a white paper, infographics, or here at the end of the year, I think a report or study on how 2018 has done for you would be a great offer. Checklists and templates are also very nice in a nice digital format. And like the webinar you're in right now, you can put a webinar or a course as part of an offer. And I think it's important to note that driving to an offer is that second level of engagement. So here we turn our focus to single focus messaging. If we're in the second level, the donor has already opened my email and they're actively scoping out what you want them to do. So what is your point of view? What do you want them to do? A single focused email here is a critical tool. the action that you're driving, the offer, should be clear in the messaging, and usually it's in a single focus, the only action that they can take. Usually this is a link or a very obvious button. Think of that red go button that Zach just demoed. Commerce emails in particular do single focus messaging exceptionally well. They want you to buy. But just think of this in context of your own inbox. Time is everything. Colleen's example being in the carpool lane. You want them to interact and you want it to be simple, because the simpler the message, the more likely the donor is to play along. So all along the way, answer, what's in it for me? We'll show you some examples of single focus messaging.
The first email on the left is one that I got from Fitbit. I really love how simple the message is in this. And that big hero image of the actual product gives me a sneak peek at some of the features of the band. Then we see a very clear button at the bottom telling the reader exactly what we want them to do next. In this case, pre-order now. Also, from a design perspective, that bright pink button really jumps off the page. It's a different color from the band and all the other elements on the page. It truly passes the squint test. And just FYI, the squint tests, I've had this question come up in the past. If you close your eyes just almost closed, so everything's blurry, the squint test is you want that button or you want your call to action to pop out. So you should see it from a blurry standpoint or from a clear standpoint. On the right here, we have a beautiful email from Bose. From a creative standpoint, they use a black and white kind of photography in this one, which really makes it stand out in the inbox and gives it a modern, sleek look and feel. In this particular case, we have a much longer email that has a ton of information about these new headphones. The tricky part is, as we scroll down the page, all of the buttons go to the actual same landing page, with each section giving a little more information about the product. Again, very clear calls to actions for the reader. Going back to what we discussed at the beginning of today's webinar, in that conversion-based versus education-based marketing, I would classify this one as an education-style email. That copy is meant to educate me along the way and draw me in with features and benefits, while the image gives me a little sneak peek of what the product looks like. Overall, both of these very clear, simple examples of those emails.
Here's a side-by-side in the plan giving space of a single focused email design on the left, followed by a traditional e-newsletter design on the right. And first, let me note, we're spending some time talking about single focus, but both of these examples belong in a strong marketing program. There's room for both. Let's talk a little bit, digest these just a touch. On the left there, the Tiger Athletic Foundation totally passes the squint test here. There's a yellow button. I know what you want me to do, and I know how to do it. It's also a very segmented list. This is an athletic group. They're going to recognize this football player and feel very inspired, like you know them, like you're having that one-on-one conversation. On the right, this is more that educational style email. There's a longer introduction, and there's multiple links as they scroll down. Really, in this situation, the donor gets to pick their destination. They're in charge. That top feature is the piece they're most likely to click on, but here you've given them lots of opportunity to explore. So again, room for both. I think it's important as we consider single-focused emails and as we consider what you want them to do, get to the offer, you've got to think about how you create those offers. And there's really two kinds. There's the emotional and there's the intellectual, your heart versus your head. And there's room for both, just like in the traditional e-newsletter design versus single-focused, but you should absolutely expect different outcomes. And they require a different amount of knowledge about your list, about the person that you're sending this to. Again, that football example, I understand who that is, and I'm going to give them something that's going to tug their heartstrings. Let's talk just a little bit about intellectual to start. This type of marketing is straightforward. It's going to inform, obviously educate, it's going to confirm, and it can help donors check a box. This type of messaging often works really well for drip marketing. Give them a lot of opportunities to dig in deeper and get it on repeat. Make sure they have, again, opportunities throughout the year to take part. The steady stream of education over time helps build your case, particularly for plan giving. This can also really help you engage subscribers before you ask them for anything. Educational or intellectual offers, give before you ask anything of a donor. This is going to cultivate your relationship, and ultimately your goal is to warm them up. And that's going to increase the likelihood of a positive response once you make the ask. Now, emotional marketing, emotional offers, this is the heartstring tug, and that's going to require just a bit more knowledge about your donor going into a conversation. You have to know what's going to pull at their heartstrings. Frankly, emotional is just that primitive form of human response, so it can also have the most results, but you've got to earn it. Let me show you an example of emotional versus intellectual offers side by side. On the left, I should say both of these are simple downloads for Brown University. They're a multi-page PDF. So in context, the offers are very similar. But behind the scenes, two things are happening. On the left, a more emotional offer. What to do in the first 48 hours when you lose a loved one. Wow, that gets right to the heart of planned giving. You're preparing your loved ones for a time when you're not there. Now, it would be awkward if this were the first marketing message you ever put in front of someone. That assumes you know quite a bit about them and that you have their trust and that they understand why Brown is sending them a message like this. So within that donor life cycle that I started to talk about, this wouldn't be an appropriate onboarding piece of that. On the right, a more intellectual offer. I'm ready to make a will, just educate me, give me the gist of it, help me take that next step. It's very specific and detailed. I'm just trying to educate them. I mentioned earlier this idea of an offer stable, so let me emphasize that here. It's great to have a full collection of offers that's going to pull the different levers, the emotional offers, the intellectual offers. Really what this does for you is cover all stages of that four-part donor life cycle, because it's really about the more you know, and that's really about personalizing. Hey listeners, always personalize. The better you've done cultivating your list and the more you've used that relationship step, the more you know. This helps you answer what's in it for me. And the more you know about that me, that donor, the more appealing and targeted all of your messaging and all of your offers can be as a result. Now within personalization, this can take a number of forms. I think we're all familiar with the Dear Katie side of personalization, but let's just show some examples that go beyond using the donor's name in the body of an email. Zach, can you share some?
Yeah, on the left, this Spotify email was tailor-fit to the listener. Here we have a big image for all those country fans, Charles Kelly from Lady Antebellum. This email recipient is a big fan of the group, and Spotify knows that through their listening habits. So they delivered a personalized message that highlights an upcoming solo concert by Kelly, and the call to action is exclusive access to buy tickets for you and your friends. This email also closes with a written call to action and a button that encourages a recipient to listen to Kelly's new song specifically on Spotify. Again, this push helps to ensure that the user is actively using the streaming service and therefore continuously reminded of the value of Spotify. On the right, this Jetblue anniversary email highlights a creative example of a brand using something as simple as the date provided to deliver a standout experience. My name's not on this or any part of it, but it really doesn't need to be. Much like a birthday shout out or an anniversary note, Jetblue used this user's creation date to trigger a personalized email to celebrate the fact they've been connected for 365 days. You know, as a nonprofit, you may consider sending out this type of email for society members. It could act as a simple stewardship message showing all of the great things that they've done in the past year with the gifts that they've provided to you.
Beautiful segue to this example, Zach. This is from the annual side of things, an email that pops in an inbox for Hannah, personalized there, but you probably can't see it because we've faded it out for anonymity, but Hannah gave a gift to Charity Water in this case 2 years ago. This email arrives back in her inbox to really let her know where her money went. This is the stewardship. This is a really beautiful example of personalization within an experience over time. This email takes you directly to this landing page. And here again, we expand on that personal story of what happened over 2 years in terms of this nonprofit and how Hannah in particular was part of change. This is just a beautiful re-engagement and making sure that it's maybe been 2 years since Hannah's given, but as she goes deeper into this landing page, she can also see how her funds have compared to others who've given. I love this subtle competitive nature of this email. It doesn't say, Hannah, your work's not important, because that's really what the email and the landing page top did. But here it's just a little bit of encouragement of others like her, a little social proof that others are making a difference as well. This can be really great for the retention part of a donor life cycle. Here's another side-by-side example from planned giving, and what we're going to take you through is how these are different. Obvious differences here, but we're going to have one on the left that's from specifically the law school at St. Mary's, and one from the right that's from the Fuller University. So from top to bottom, the first part is the subject line itself. There you can see that little arrow that's nodding you there. Recognition that helps you ensure that you see something that you recognize. So as this person segmented their list, the law school got a unique article that related to what was happening in the law school experience, and on the right, a general you're going to get different contacts. And I love that they've split their planned giving office between a law school conversation and a general line being a place that you don't add a personal name. You're not from Gail or from Steve. Here at the bottom, this is a great spot to personalize, and so they know who's going to be on the other side of the phone when they give a call. Noted too, these were great plan giving links that were relevant no matter where they were from a law school or general. So list, offer, creative. Here we are in part 3 of 3 of our presentation. You're almost home. So the job of creative is to motivate action. It's not just to impress your donors. It's not all fireworks. We've got to make them take the next step. Communication fits into the Fuller brand conversation. And I want to show you here an example of a full calendar view of what your donors are hearing from you. This is 10 months. I know we're having a little technical difficulty. I apologize. Here we go. 10 months marketing calendar. Think of all the touch points a donor has with you, and may not just be the planned giving office, but your general marketing departments. You can see print, web, email, social, and again, all the drum beats that are happening in this communication. And it doesn't mean that the donor is going to pay attention to all the social posts or open all their emails, but over the course of 10 months in this example, they've got more than a dozen times that you're going to be having a conversation. So the creative should really focus on what the full story is across a period of time, and make sure that what you say in February is reinforced or updated in October. So I think it's important to think of creative not as a tunnel, but as the fuller panoramic view of what's happening. Here's an example of a print to a digital and print experience that I had. I love to throw in personal examples because they're really meaningful to me. So on the left, this is Bowden. They're a clothing company that I adore. On the left is a single focused email that came into my inbox. Really obvious, beautiful image of a hot pink coat. And this came just as summer is turning to fall for me, so seasonally appropriate. They also have a small 15% off piece that I can see flagged at the top, and a single button for me to start shopping. What I like then is Bowden knows I'm an active customer, and they have my mailing address. And they kept the creative going in my mailbox. So that's me holding the catalog that I received literally a week after this email, and you bet I recognized that hot pink coat. That same 15% offer was still in play right there on the cover. And I actually didn't realize this until we made this presentation, but that wording, it's a new day, that you can see very obviously there on the catalog, happened to be the subject line of my email. This is a great example of message, and it can be subtle. I don't remember the subject line of this email, but they are telling me it's a new day and I desperately need this coat. So all of our examples and all the calendar, everything that we're talking about is really that this is meaningful content to the person that you're speaking with. But we also need to think about creative. With an email, we know open rate is really important. This is a critical measure of success. It is that first touch point. But open rate isn't the full story. I love the icons that Zach tucked in here, where this idea is that open rates are the hand wave. You know, hey, I recognize you. You're a brand I'm familiar with. But the click rate, that's the handshake. That's, hey, I'd love to talk. And creative's job is to get you between the two, help you drive action and start the conversation. Let's look at another example of going from email to a landing page, driving from the open rate to the action, to the handshake. Here, there's a great example. Straight value for the donor. And Zach's earlier example about real estate, this one too happens to be about real estate. And the text is that this gift is a highly advantageous way to leave your legacy thanks to tax incentives. Well, throughout this presentation, we've shown you a lot of mobile examples, and we do try to think about that as we create. I toss it to you to talk a little bit more about why mobile is so important.
You bet. The mobile-first approach is exactly as it sounds, designing for the smallest screen and working your way up. If your email and website look good on mobile device, it translates better to all devices. And more important, though, is that the mobile-first approach is also a content-first approach. Mobile has the most limitations, screen size, bandwidth, just to name a few. And so designing with these parameters forces you to also prioritize content. So next, I want to talk briefly about the user experience and taking your donor from an email to your website. This is a very important first donor can begin. So touching on the Tiger Athletic Foundation here, you can whereas on the desktop, we have a much more traditional form and additional content to add context. First, we'll view a single email in more than one environment. And 61% of users are unlikely to return to a mobile site that they had trouble accessing from their phone. So in other words, get one shot to get it right to dominate over desktop and webmail. However, webmail has seen a slight uptick in usage. This potentially could be attributed to users using tablets and or larger mobile screen sizes and allowing for a better browser experience. Webmail is considered email. It's an email client that you can open on a web browser, so think of your Gmail or your Yahoo account. So what does this mean for us? Well, according to Return Path, 8 and 10 users sizes. Guess what, guys? It's time for our last quiz of the day. No peeking, but Jen, can you go ahead and launch that quiz? All right, how many invitations to you?
I feel like opening my inbox back up right now and checking. This is kind of a trick question. I feel bad for this one. Do you guys remember? Kind of show you how we utilize these tips and tricks.
Okay, guys, it's your last chance. This is the last poll. Have your voice be heard. We'll leave
Okay.
Colleen back. There you go.
Yep. Like I said, I feel a little bit bad about this one. This was kind of a trick question. Why? Because we actually had 2 links in there for the first one and the second one, 1 link in the third one. So I'm just going to give it to all of you except for those who answered 4 because that wasn't even an option. Good times. So let's quick run through the emails that we utilized today and how we utilized all today's tips and tricks to get you onto today's presentation. So first things first, how did we get all of you on our marketing lists, on our email marketing lists? Well, there's several reasons. First, you attended a conference, met one of our friendly staff out in the field. You may have attended a speaking engagement, a local plan giving conference, or interacted with us at a conference or a representative. You asked to be on the list. We have a lot of people that actually ask to be on a marketing list. You are hopefully one of our wonderful 1,500 clients that we work with already, or for those of that you are not, hopefully we can work with you in the future. Katie, do you want to talk a little bit just about some of the copy here?
Well, you can see in that pullout, here's the subject line, from line, and a piece I'll talk a little bit about called a pre-header. But the from line, the Stelter Company. It's not from Jen Lennon, no offense, Jen, but Stelter Company is going to have more recognition. There in the subject line, the brackets around the word webinar. We've seen some testing lately that brackets are increasing opens, and so been something that we've been trying in our marketing and something you might want to test. You also know exactly what you're going to get. This is a webinar. Let's get you to the offer. There, the third thing you can see in that small pop-up is something called a pre-header. And feel free to email any of us, and we can talk you through a little bit more how that works with the different email clients. But this is text that doesn't display anywhere else. But there you can see it's personalized. We've got an emoji. Zach, do you love email like we do? And that can display in their inbox before they commit to opening. There behind it is the fuller experience of the email, and that just scrolled down for you as well. Up back at the top, there was an animated GIF for those of you whose email clients accept those, that flash between the light bulb and the envelope and the computer desk screen. You've got mail repeating the messaging from the subject line. Definitely passes the squint test here, that orange button to register now. And then subtly under it, I love this sense of urgency that seats are limited. There's a date with it. It's all really clear what we want you to do and how you can take the next step and do it. We previewed as you scroll down, there's deeper information. You can see who the presenters will be, and there's another opportunity to register.
You know, one of the things that we added to this as well is knowing the past history of our webinars. We wanted to make sure that the time zone, luckily for us, we work with people across the United States, and the time zone seems to be always a question, so we wanted to make sure that that information was in there. Now, as we transition to the second email, you'll notice, like Katie had mentioned, we had an animated GIF in the first one. A lot of people don't like images, so we decided to take it out on this one. But again, we used a new subject line, so we wanted to make sure that in your inbox you didn't have a duplicate of something that you had before. Again, the squint test with that register now button, very bright yellow. It's a little different than the previous one just in terms of color. And then on the last one, we actually made this a very simple text. And we know that a lot of the people that we work with, prospects and clients, you guys lead a very, very busy life. You wear many hats. A portion of it may just be plan giving. So we wanted to really highlight registering for today's webinar. We'll actually give you access to the recording in the past. So wow, that was a ton of information, almost like drinking out of a fire hose. So let's quick recap the 3 most important elements from today's presentation. First and foremost, always remember your list is number 1. We want to make sure that we send to an interested audience that wants to get our message so we don't get bad sender scores and not allowed in their inbox at all. Then comes all the important offer that Katie had talked about, and most of the time that emotional offer is going to win out over a more intellectual offer. And finally, we talked about creative and why it's not meant to impress your reader, but to really complement your message and help meet the goals of your marketing efforts. Again, we are thankful for all of you that joined this webinar today. And again, apologize for not leaving a time for questions. But like I said at the beginning, our emails are up here live. We're going to leave this up here for a few seconds. I promise we'll do our best to answer those as quickly as possible. But on behalf of... Yeah,
sorry to interrupt you. This is Jen. I just wanted to let you know we did have a couple questions that came in And Colleen has agreed to tackle these questions. So we're going to go ahead and pose those to her. Colleen's still on the line with us. You haven't heard from her for a while. But Colleen, Marnie's asking, how does an email get flagged as a bulk email?
Great question. You know, these algorithms that these ESPs are using, we can't really know what they are, because if we did, we would follow all the rules, right? So they're pretty secretive about that. But in my opinion, there's a handful of things that happen. So one is they can see how many emails are being sent into, say, Gmail from one IP address, and how many of those people are receiving it in Gmail. So say you have 1,000 people on your list that have Gmail email accounts, they can see that. They're all getting the same email right now. There's other things they'll look at, like, have you been on a blacklist before? Your sender reputation. Are you on a whitelist, which is a good list? Have you had previous spam complaints, like we talked about earlier? And flagging any content that can be very spammy as well. So I think they use a combination of those things to decide whether it's bulk or not.
Thanks, Colleen. One more, and you're going to have to help me with this a little bit. It's from Stephen. He's wanting to know what percentages Gmail or others use to determine what should look out to unsubscribe. It's a little unclear what the question is. I think you know what he's asking there.
Okay, so I think what you're asking, and you can certainly email me later and clarify, but what I think you're asking me is how do they say, okay, Colleen, do you want to unsubscribe from this email now? So my inclination, we don't know exactly, is like how long has the email sat in my inbox? How many times has this organization emailed me, and how many of them have I opened? So, for example, I know I am a Gmail user, and it was very surprising to me that one popped up the other day that says, you haven't opened this Target email for a long time. Do you want to unsubscribe? And I didn't realize that it had been 3 months since I had not opened an email from Target. So they're using a combination of things to just try to help you manage better.
Well, wow. Whew, that was so much information, you guys. We have 1 minute left, so you guys timed this pretty well. And Colleen, thanks so much for jumping in and answering those couple questions. Like Zach mentioned, they're more than happy, the presenters, to answer any questions that you might have that you didn't send in or that you think of later on. So the email address on the screen, I'll also give you access to the slides, and so you can have the email addresses then too. So just quickly, thank you, Colleen, thank you, Katie, and thank you, Zach, so much for spending the last hour with us. Thank you to our close to 200 nonprofit partners that called in today and spent the last hour with us. We hope you found it useful in your to help you with your e-marketing programs. And finally, I just want to let you know, as always, we recorded the webinar, and barring any technical difficulties, I will be putting it on stelter.com/webinars in the next couple days, so you can go there, see the recording again, download the slides, share with your friends and colleagues. You will get an email from me letting you know exactly when it's available, but it should be within the next couple days. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the presentation, and we hope to talk to you again soon. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.